Wirecard, the $1.9 billion that never existed. The money was supposed to be sitting in 2 bank accounts in the Philippines. Audited, verified, protected. Nearly $1.9 billion in corporate cash reserves belonging to one of Europe's most celebrated financial technology companies. Then investigators called the banks directly. The banks said the accounts never existed. Within days, Wirecard collapsed into insolvency. A company once valued at more than £24 billion evaporated almost overnight. Germany's regulators had defended it. Major investors trusted it. Ernst & Young had signed off on its books for more than a decade. And yet, the central number supporting the company's balance sheet appears to have been fiction the entire time. This story is not just about fraud. It is about institutional failure on a scale large enough to shake an entire financial system. Because Wirecard was not hiding in the shadows. It was publicly traded, included in Germany's prestigious DAX index, praised as Europe's answer to PayPal. The fraud allegedly operated in full view of auditors, regulators, banks, analysts, and politicians for years. And somehow, nobody stopped it. For most people, Wirecard looked like the future of finance. Founded near Munich in 1999, the company processed electronic payments, issued cards, and handled transactions for businesses across the world. By the late 2010s, it had become one of Germany's biggest corporate success stories. Chancellor Angela Merkel personally supported its international expansion. Investors treated it like a national champion. The company's CEO, Markus Braun, cultivated the image carefully. Black turtlenecks, grand speeches about digital finance, endless promises about global growth. Wirecard claimed it was operating across Asia, the Middle East, and emerging markets where traditional banks struggled to modernize. The numbers appeared extraordinary. Revenues surged. Profits expanded. The stock price exploded. But beneath the surface, critics kept finding inconsistencies. Journalists at the Financial Times began publishing investigations as early as 2015. Whistleblowers described forged contracts, suspicious accounting practices, and fabricated transactions. Internal documents suggested that revenues flowing through overseas partners could not be independently verified. Yet, every time questions emerged, Wirecard fought back aggressively. Instead of seriously investigating the company, Germany's financial regulator, BaFin, often targeted the critics. In 2019, after Financial Times reporting triggered volatility in Wirecard's stock price, BaFin launched investigations into journalists and short sellers for alleged market manipulation. Germany temporarily banned short selling of Wirecard shares entirely. The regulator publicly defended the company while accusations of accounting fraud continued to pile up. The message was unmistakable. The greater threat, according to the system, was not the possibility that Wirecard was committing fraud. The threat was that someone was exposing it. That protection mattered because Wirecard's business model was difficult for outsiders to understand. Large portions of its reported profits allegedly came from so-called third-party acquiring partners operating overseas. These partners supposedly processed payments in regions where Wirecard lacked licenses. The structure created layers of distance between the company's reported revenue and any independent verification of it. Complexity became protection. Auditors from EY repeatedly signed off on Wirecard's accounts despite years of warning signs. According to reporting and later investigations, EY often relied heavily on documents and confirmations routed through intermediaries instead of independently verifying the existence of critical cash balances directly with banks. That distinction would eventually become catastrophic. In June 2020, EY refused to approve Wirecard's financial statements after failing to confirm the existence of $1.9 billion supposedly held in trust accounts in the Philippines. Philippine banks stated that documents tied to the accounts were fraudulent. The country's central bank later confirmed the money never entered the Philippine financial system at all. The missing cash represented roughly a quarter of Wirecard's balance sheet. Then came the most devastating realization of all. The money had likely never existed in the first place. That single admission destroyed the illusion instantly. Wirecard's market value collapsed. Banks demanded repayment on billions in loans. Investors lost enormous sums within days. On June 25, 2020, Wirecard filed for insolvency, becoming the first member of Germany's DAX index ever to collapse into bankruptcy. But even then, the story became stranger. At the center of Wirecard's international operations sat Jan Marsalek, the company's chief operating officer. Charismatic, politically connected, and deeply involved in the company's opaque overseas structures, Marsalek had overseen many of the business areas later linked to the missing funds. When the scandal exploded, he disappeared. According to reporting from multiple investigations, Marsalek fled Europe using networks connected to former Austrian intelligence officials. He allegedly traveled through private aviation channels and eventually surfaced in Russia. Intelligence reports and investigative journalists later linked him to Russian intelligence circles, private military interests, and covert operations far beyond the normal world of corporate fraud. The allegations surrounding Marsalek transformed Wirecard from a financial scandal into something far more unsettling. Because the deeper investigators looked, the more they found connections between finance, political influence, intelligence networks, and regulatory paralysis. Wirecard reportedly handled payments in high-risk jurisdictions and maintained relationships that blurred the lines between legitimate finance and geopolitical operations. Some reporting even connected Marsalek to discussions involving Libyan militias, surveillance projects, and Russian security actors. Whether every allegation is ultimately proven matters less than what the scandal exposed about the modern financial system itself. Wirecard did not survive because its fraud was flawless. It survived because the surrounding institutions repeatedly validated it. EY audited the company for over 10 years. BaFin defended it publicly. Analysts promoted it. Banks financed it. Politicians celebrated it. Even after repeated warnings from journalists and whistleblowers, the system treated skepticism as the real danger. That pattern should concern every investor watching this story. Most people assume financial markets contain layers of protection. Auditors verify the numbers. Regulators investigate misconduct. Stock exchanges enforce standards. Institutional investors conduct due diligence. But Wirecard demonstrated what happens when each layer quietly assumes another layer is doing the real verification. Responsibility became fragmented until effectively nobody was responsible at all. The scale of the collapse was staggering. Estimates suggest more than £20 billion in shareholder value disappeared. Thousands of employees were thrown into uncertainty. Pension funds and retail investors absorbed heavy losses. Germany's financial credibility suffered severe international damage. Parliamentary inquiries later examined how regulators, auditors, and government agencies failed so completely. But the most important consequence may be psychological. Wirecard exposed how easily complexity can overpower oversight inside modern finance. Once a company becomes large enough, international enough, and politically important enough, skepticism itself can begin to look disruptive. Institutions start protecting confidence rather than testing reality. Questions become threats. Doubt becomes market instability, and the system slowly shifts from verification to performance. That is why the £1.9 billion matters, not because the money disappeared, but because so many powerful institutions behaved as though it existed without truly knowing whether it did. For years, investors believed Wirecard represented the future of digital payments. In reality, according to prosecutors and investigators, major portions of the company's profits may have been fabricated almost from the beginning. A multi-billion euro corporation operating at the center of Europe's financial system was allegedly built on false transactions, unverifiable partners, forged documents, and cash balances that never existed. And the system certified it anyway. That is the uncomfortable lesson sitting underneath the Wirecard scandal. Financial systems do not fail only because criminals lie. They fail when institutions become more invested in preserving trust than verifying truth. Because if a $24 billion public company can operate for years with fictional cash, audited accounts, regulatory protection, and political support, then the real question is no longer how Wirecard collapsed. The real question is how many people needed it to keep standing. Today, the official investigations continue across multiple countries. Former executives face criminal proceedings. EY faced lawsuits and enormous reputational damage. Germany restructured parts of its financial oversight framework after public outrage over BaFin's conduct. Yet reforms do not automatically solve the deeper problem exposed by Wirecard. Modern finance increasingly depends on trust built through abstraction. Most investors never see underlying assets. They see audited statements, analyst ratings, regulatory filings, and institutional endorsements. Confidence is outsourced through layers of specialists that are supposed to validate one another. Wirecard revealed how fragile that arrangement becomes when those layers stop acting independently. The company was not uncovered by regulators performing routine oversight. It was uncovered largely because journalists refused to stop asking questions after years of intimidation, lawsuits, surveillance concerns, and public criticism. Without that pressure, estimates suggest the fraud could have continued far longer. That detail matters because it changes the meaning of the scandal entirely. Wirecard was not simply a rogue company that slipped through the cracks. It became evidence that the cracks themselves had spread through the entire structure. And for ordinary investors, that may be the most unsettling realization of all. The logos look legitimate. The auditors look authoritative. The regulators look reassuring. But beneath the surface, markets still rely on human judgment, institutional incentives, and assumptions that can fail for years before reality forces its way into view. Dark Pool investigates the systems operating beneath everyday life, the institutions, incentives, and structures most people never think to question. The systems shaping the modern world rarely announce themselves. Because the most powerful systems are usually the ones nobody looks at closely.